Hello guys, Reset Jet here. Welcome to the channel. For a while now, I've been wanting to post a video on how I personally operate the CRJ 700 and 900 aircraft using Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. Not only am I an avid flight simmer, I am a CFI, and I do currently work as a first officer for U.S. Regional Airline flying this airplane. Over the past like 2 decades or so, I've come to realize just how valuable a tool flight sim can be in supplementing someone's training and education in aviation. Like, speaking for myself here, I use a sim, especially these days as a reserve pilot, to help stay sharp at procedures and our standard flight routine that my airline uses. Now, when it comes to Aerosoft CRJ here, I definitely have a love-hate relationship with the airplane. It's not a Phoenix, it's not a PMDG, but at the same time, it's not a Captain Sim. It gets the job done, but there are definitely some quirks and some things that are not entirely correct in respect to the real aircraft. But again, it gets the job done, and my intention isn't to bash the product. What my intention is to show not only what some of the procedures and techniques are that I use in the real world, but just to show how I personally will integrate some of this information into my simulated flights. There are already plenty of tutorial videos out on YouTube, and some I actually even would direct you to because they're great, and like 99% of the things that I've seen on there, it's pretty much what we do as well too. So there's no right or wrong way to fly this airplane. But if I am able to teach you something new along the way, then all the better. With that being said, I am going to post this video, which is actually a recording of a flight that I did earlier, I guess in 2020 now, or 2022. Again, it's just the way that I go about operating the aircraft, and if you learn something new, then good deal. Beyond that, I'll probably be posting more videos like this in the future of CRJ flights and probably other airplanes as well too. But I hope you guys enjoy the content, and welcome to the channel. Raleigh-Durham in the CRJ 900 in Endeavor colors. We'll be flying up to Reagan this afternoon. I like following real world flights, and as a matter of fact, I flew this route, not necessarily this flight, but flew this route just a week or two ago, right when Nicole was actually making her way past the states here on the East Coast. So definitely familiar with this route. It's a great day here, great day in the East Coast, and like this the eastern half of the United States right now. There's 2 high pressure systems that are kind of making their way west to east, and it's providing this great clear weather that we have today, and it should be the same too at Reagan. Winds are out of the south, and expecting a river visual 19, so hopefully that'll be entertaining for you guys. That being said, we'll hop in the airplane here, and we'll get started. One of the first things we want to do when we're making our way down to the aircraft is we'll just kind of verify the condition of the airplane. If usually there's going to be power. It's connected right now, but obviously we're not seeing that visually. But usually there's going to be power to the airplane. If there's not, obviously we want to get that connected. But we just want to establish the condition of the aircraft itself. We want to make sure maintenance isn't working on it. No one is back there by the APU or anything like that. So one of the first things I actually do is just kind of make sure that the aircraft is chalked flap positions, or or they're actually what it says it is in the aircraft. And mostly it's going to be up, but I just want to verify those things before I actually start moving anything. So let's go ahead and hop on board here. The captain is responsible for verifying that the aircraft is actually legal. So he or she is going to look at the paperwork in the back, make sure our airworthiness certificates are on board, registration. We've got the proper emergency equipment on board as well too. And then he or she's going to go through their checks, and then I'm going to walk outside and do the walk around. The walk around doesn't really consist of a whole lot. You're just verifying that things are not broken for the most part. So we'll actually run through this really quickly here. Initially, that's a little too fast. Initially, I'll walk outside and there's a blowout plug here. A little green plug that may not be simulated. Oh, there it is. That plug right there. We just want to make sure that it is in fact that the plug is still there. If not, that's something we're gonna have to let maintenance know about. The probe here is clear. The what do you call it? Standby probe up there is clear and free of any damage or anything like that. This probe as well too is free and clear. The ice detector probe is not damaged. Essentially, yeah, you're just making sure things are not damaged or bent or broken. Take a look at the tire conditions, or the tire condition, and just make sure there are no tears or any leaks down here. And we want to make sure the bypass bin isn't connected as well in there. Otherwise, we won't be able to retract our gear. The latches here, those have to be latched. If they're not, that's something we have to let maintenance know. We can't just latch them ourselves for whatever reason. Our probes again over here, P1 or P2, S1, S2 are not damaged. Same for the ice detector probe and the TAT probe up there. Angle of attack probe is not bent or damaged. We'll move over towards the emergency lights. That's not damaged or cracked or anything like that. Doors down there might be opened because the rampers might be working on it. We'll move towards the back end, and the entire time we're just making sure the structure of the fuselage itself isn't there's no huge dents or anything like that that isn't already been looked at. Just like the nose gear, just the tire conditions, we want to make sure that the tires are not scuffed up too bad. There's no tread, no wires that are showing or anything like that. Back here, it's not modeled, but there are brake pins. There are wear pins that will stick out, and you just want to verify that you've got at least a credit card's width of that that's sticking out. Otherwise, again, that's something else we're gonna have to let maintenance know about. Then we'll take a look at the wing. Just want to make sure it's not dented, bent, or anything like that. Our winglets should be I can't remember how many static wicks are supposed to have here. That looks about right. 9 of them. 4. Yeah, 9 of them. Flat fairings, nothing's bent, broken. Again, more panels that should be closed. If they're not, then hopefully somebody's working on them and then they're going to close them. We'll take a look at the inlet. Make sure nothing's bent. We've got no oil drips down here. Move to the back end. Again, you're just making sure there's no damage in general around the entire airplane. And then it's pretty much the same thing on the other side here. There's no dents. You're gonna see dents underneath this engine. It's inevitable. Hopefully they're just marked though, because the close proximity of the belt loader to the cargo door there, it happens. But you just want to make sure that maintenance knows about it. It's already something that they've marked. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's the same thing on this other side as well too. Just want to make sure Tires are in good condition, as well as the wear pins, and we'll take a look at the wing, make sure that's okay as well too. And that's pretty much it. And make our way back inside, and we'll get the FMS programmed, and we'll get going. So, there's a process in which we go about that we use when we program the FMS here. You just want to think IFR. I being the index, F being the flight plan, and then R being the radio. And for the most part, that's going to cover like 99% of the things that we need to do. So, as most of you already know, we'll get our ILS initiated here. Now, let's see the current weather. Winds are calm, and a quick check of FlightAware shows that they're using the 5s, so 5 left and right. We'll plan for 5 left, and pull up our flight plan here really quick. Move this over to this side. Alright, so we are using the Bexco 5. Out of 5 left. Flight plan, we'll execute that for now. Bexco to Boozy, and I think that was already in there. And then basically the transition to the CAPS 3 VO waves. And I already know we're going to use 19, so we'll just go ahead and put that in there for now. Flight plan, we'll take a look at our legs here. We'll close this discontinuity out, execute that. KSAT Bluey flips. That looks about right. Alright, so the I kind of skipped over it because it never really changes here, but in the I, we want to make sure obviously our database is active, date is what date it should be, and UTC matches the clock here, and the engines are what we're expecting to be the correct variant. And then from the index we can move on to the flight plan, which we just did. From the flight plan we'll go down to radios. We just want to make sure those both nav 1 and 2 are in auto, and then make sure we've got the right squawk in here, and then our flight plan Endeavor 5084 is set down here in the flight ID. So I think that's what ATC sees. Could be wrong. Somebody let me know if you know. From there, we'll go to the pref page. Pref, we are only going up to 19,000 today. We'll execute that. For our fuel, we are requiring, I like to highlight these here. So when we leave the ramp, we need at least 7,714. Now we can go below. Technically, we can have 500 below that before we actually need to let dispatch know. But trust me, going into DC, you're gonna want to have as much fuel as you can possibly take with you, just because you never know what's gonna happen there. With that being said, we'll get rid of this for now. We need 7714. We'll just say we need 7,800. Ask a little bit from the fueler here. For a little bit from the fueler. Passengers, we're going to have 60 on board today, and we're going to carry, this is 0, let's say, we'll say 500 here. Oops, 500 and 1200. And we'll go ahead and put that in our aircraft for now. So when we come back here, we can put that 7800 in here. For ISO deviation, I don't think that's going to matter today. Wind of 250 at 50. Alright, reserves. For reserves, we're going to say 2300 and 300 for taxi fuel. And last but not least, for the MFD, so pilot flying, we'll go down to MFD menu. The pilot flying is going to have the VNAV page, and I like airports, and the pilot monitoring is just going to have theirs to on. So we're going to have the VNAV information here, while they'll have just like some basic information on this side. So it's almost like the progress page. It's almost the same information. So it's the next fix, or it's the like current fix we're going to, the next fix after that, and then the destination with the fuel at the end. And that is pretty much it when it comes to setting up the aircraft here. We'll come up here to the MCP. We'll say I'm flying this leg, so we'll transfer the flight director to my side, and I'll bug 200 knots and runway heading, which is going to be 054, and then an initial altitude of 6,000 feet. And then last but not least, we're going to set what is referred to as the FRA, the flat retraction altitude, which is essentially 1,000 feet above field elevation. So Raleigh's airport elevation is 435 feet. We'll round that up to 1,400 feet. And again, this is just company's policy. The FRA is the altitude in which if we lose an engine, we are going to level off at that altitude and retract the flaps, accelerate before climbing out and dealing with the emergency. So that is a great little tool just to help us remember what the altitude is. Now, this should have been activated already. I'm not sure why. What's going on with the mod trim? Stab 1 and 2. Mod trim. There we go. And now damper 1 and 2. So usually, if this is a turnaround, which is kind of what we're treating it as, if the flight just came in from somewhere, usually your thrust reversers are already going to be armed, and you're not going to have your stab trim and mod trim, as well as your yaw dampers out. Those are already going to be activated. That's pretty much it. So at this point, since this is the first time we are actually flying with the aircraft, we have to do an acceptance checklist. I'll go ahead and get rid of our catering here. So yeah, we'll go through the acceptance checklist. Acceptance checklist, AML brief, pilot flying says that's been complete. So basically we would make sure we look at the logbook and make sure we have no open write-ups, and everything that should be signed off is signed off the way it should be signed off. Forms and manuals verified, checked. Exterior inspection verified, complete. Gear and 80 G-pins have been stowed. Crew O2 quantity verified that we've got 1850 psi on board. Electrical power panel, that's been checked. fuel panel, that's been checked. Leader panel is not set the way it needs to be. Leader panel, that is set. APU is off for now. Hydraulic panel is also not set the way it should be. These should all be auto. Let's see here. APU is off. Hydraulic panel is checked. Air conditioning panel is checked. Windshield switches are low now. Emergency lights armed. Clocks verify set. It is 1844. That is set. Display standby instruments verified checked. Thrust lever quadrant, that's been checked. Now RTU stick guys ACPs, that has been checked, and that's off. It should be off. Lower pedestal is checked. Acceptance checklist complete. And once that's done, we can the pilot flying can brief the pilot monitoring. So the way we do our briefs, it goes something like this. We'll get the weather, then we'll go through our route, and then we'll talk about any emergency actions that we might encounter. So we've got information, whatever it's supposed to be. Winds are calm, 10 miles visibility, scattered at 16,000, broken at 21 and 25. Temperature is 15, dew points -6, altimeter is 3035, and I'll have to set this 3 times here. 3035, 3035. And let's make our way over here. (3035). Using runway 5 left and 5 right. I'll pull up our PFD here, so we were looking at the same thing. So we have been cleared to from Raleigh to DCA. Via the Bex Go 5 Boozy, then direct ways on to Caps 3. That's what I have in here for a total of where is it at? 231 miles, and we've got 210 miles, so that correlates. We'll copy the flight plan here, so we copy the flight plan just in case we need to make any changes. Then we have the original flight plan already kind of backed up. We'll come down here to the radios. This would be on ground, tower, ops, and departure, but since we are on VATSIM, we'll just use the CTAF of 122.8 set. Radars are auto-tune, and we would make sure our squawk is what we have on departure here, so 2000, and then pilot flying will turn the transponder onto their side. So since I'm flying, we go to standby 2. We'll then review what's on the PFD here. So white arrow shows that the flight director is coupled to my side. We have 200 knots indicated on the airspeed using white needles. So our nav source is using white needles. Altimeter is 3035 with a initial altitude of 6,000 feet, and then our flight retraction altitude of 1440. That covers basically the setup. So now we'll move on to the brief of where we are and how we're going to get to the runway. So pushing off of gate Delta 3, I think is where we're at. We'll get pushed back here. Delta 3, expect to take Foxtrot, it looks like, to either Tango 1 or 2, and then Bravo 1 to 5 left. Off 5 left, it's going to be a climb on the side heading for radar vectors to cross, aim high at or above 2,500 feet. Then we'll track 046 to Bexco, Boozy, and onto our fouled flight plan up to 6,000 feet initially. If we have an engine failure, we'll fly runway heading of 054 up to RFRA of 1440. We'll clean the airplane up. Accelerate, we'll say 4,000 feet since the MSA is 3,400 feet, 4,000 feet. And we'll deal with the emergency, and then we can probably come back here to Raleigh-Durham. And unless the captain has any questions, then that's it for the brief. And after that, we can go through our before takeoff checklist. The before start checklist, rather. So the before start checklist, that prompts a flow from me. So I have to make sure that the oxygen works. And then we'll tune the airport elevation, our landing elevation down here. And it's a 14 feet of DC. And then we'll turn seatbelt sign on. Once that's done, then I can run through the before start checklist. Before start checklist, AML required docs verified, checked on board. They have been checked. They are on board. Crew O2 and mass verified, checked. We've got 1840 PSI now. 1840 PSI is on board. Parking brake, verify. Your parking brake is on. Fuel quantity, verify that. Again, if we look at our, get rid of this. If we look at our flight plan, if we, let's see here, verify that 7.7, we'll call it 7.8 to be on the safe side. 7.8 is required, and we've got 7.7 on board. So long as we're plus, so long as we have between 500 from what we need. So not sure what I'm trying to say here. We need 7 point, you can just round it up to 7.8. So long as we have 7.3 on board, we're within 500, then that's what then we're okay to go legally before we need another release. So 7.8 is required, 7.7 on board, and that's checked. Altimeter is verified, 3035, set and checked. 3035, that is set, checked 3 times. Departure briefing, that is complete. Transponder, flight ID, that is on my side, and we are Endeavor 5084, and that's down to the dotted line. That checks out. And we'll go ahead and turn on APU here since we have another 9 minutes before our scheduled departure time of 1900. APU doors open, SOVs open, and we can start. At this point, the skipper is going to make his or her announcement telling the folks howdy doody, flight's going to take this long, it's going to be this bumpy, expect to have your seatbelts on, yada yada yada. I just sit there and play with my thumbs. Alright, once the APU is up and running, we can disconnect the ground power, make sure that AC switch is pushed out. And we'll just sit and wait. Now we're just waiting for the final numbers to come in. We obviously don't have ACARS here in Flight Sim World, but the information will actually auto-populate for us. Well, if it's working anyway, it'll auto-populate. And we'll be able to get our zero fuel weight, which will obviously give us our gross weight, and then we can get our numbers from there. But since we don't have that, we're just going to have to use this. So zero fuel weight of 62.9, we can round that up to 63,000 pounds, which gives us a zero fuel weight of almost 71,000 pounds. We'll execute that. Now, according to that, this should be our V speeds for flaps 8 configuration, which is fine. I mean, dry conditions, flaps 8, I don't think we need to use flaps 20. I like to reference that with the speed book that our company actually has. So if I were to take a look at that guy, at 71,000 pounds, let's see here, we've got a V1 of 134, VR 136, yeah, 136, which Ours says 135 for V1 and VR with flaps 8. V2 of 147, which is right on the money, and then a VT of 193. Well, I'm actually shocked. It's never this accurate. So we'll just go ahead and set all those. That's pretty good. But we'll go ahead and turn this back to 200 knots. Alright, so once we've got all that information in there, we're pretty much set to go. At this point, we're just going to wait for the flight attendant to, or not flight attendant, but the gate agent to ask us if we're good to close. And like I said, the information would auto-populate to tell us, we've got 60 passengers, and if they say 60 and we got 60, then good deal, we're good to close. If it says something else, then we got to figure that out. So in this case, numbers are good. Let's go ahead and disconnect and get out of here.
Captain, the cabin is secure. All passengers are aboard.
Thank you. Alright, so while the ramp here makes their way through our airplane, literally, I'll go ahead and pre-plan our pushback, and we'll go ahead and set up and get ready to go.
Cockpit to ground.
This is ground. Stand by. Okay, sir. The bypass pin is installed. All doors and hatches closed, and all ground equipment is removed.
The parking brakes are set. You may lift.
Alright, once
Parking brake
that,
set. Lifting the aircraft.
once they're ready to go down there, we'll ask for pushback clearance, and then the captain's going to go through the airflow.
Okay, clear
So
for
pumps
push
on,
start. Please release parking brake.
hydraulic pump 3A on, beacon comes on, and the nozzle steering switch, I want to verify that is off, and then we'll read the items below the before start checklist line. So below the line, nozzle steering switch, verify off, and that is off. Parking brake, I want to verify that is
Parking brake.
off now,
Parking brakes are
and
released.
it is off. And then cast, verify, check. So all information in there, that is the normal information, and that is checked. Before start checklist complete. One item I did remember now, I just forgot, was the trim 6.8. So basically I would already have all this stuff set before we were ready to even push back. And sometimes, if you've got to change it, then obviously you would change it and set that before you started taxiing. But usually you want to, it's my job to set it up before we get going here. Alright, so once we're far away enough from the gate here, it'll tell us we're cleared to start, so we'll go ahead and start. Boost pumps on, and we'll press and hold this start button until it actually comes on. It takes usually about, I don't know, like 2 to 3 seconds, but here you just kind of click it and it starts. And I'll start our timer here. Now, we're looking for a slight rise in oil pressure to start rising. The ITT, sometimes if it's the airplane has been running already, the ITT is going to be above 120. We want to make sure it's below 120 before we introduce fuel when the N2 gets to 20%. So there's 20%. We'll start the fuel here, and we'll set the parking brakes so buddy can shut up.
Parking brake set. Lowering aircraft.
Now, this is one of those things I was talking about with Aerosoft. If I were to introduce the fuel and it took that long for the ITT to start up, I would shut the engine down, because that's like a hung start right there. It should not take that long, but again, it's, you know, it is what it is. And at 50%, the starter would cut out, so the light goes out. And at this point, I could run through my after start checklist flow, but seeing as we're using 5 left and it's a very short taxi, it's actually company policy for us to taxi on single engine, but since it's really, really short, and what is going on with our... Okay. I'm just going to pretend I didn't see that. So, since it's a short taxi, we'll go ahead and start number, the left side as well too. So, fuel pump comes on. I'll reset the timer here. And we'll press and hold until she starts up. And we'll restart our timer. Now, we want to start that timer because there is a limitation on how long the starter is on. We don't want to, I don't think we want to overheat it, is what it is. Alright, we get up to 20% again, and we'll introduce fuel, and we got a hung start. And at 50%, starter should cut out, so the light would go out. And then she should start rolling back. ITT rolls back, and usually you'll have 246 here, so you'll have about 20-something% on the N1. Temperature in the ITTs usually in the 4s. And then your N2's right there somewhere in the 6s, so that looks good. We'll turn APU off, start the stop button, then power fuel, and then my after start flow, we'll turn the probes on, and that's pretty much it. And run through the after start checklist once the skipper calls for it. So after start checklist, NEIs is off, rudder, and go down here, rudder, Kaplan check the rudder. Nose wheel steering switch, they'll flick that on, and thrust reversers, we want to make sure they're armed, and CAS verify check. Those are all normal messages. CAS is checked. After start checklist complete. Alright, and then we'll go through the taxi checklist. Taxi checklist for runway 5 left at Raleigh. We'll bring the flaps down to 8. And once the flaps are at 8, go through the taxi checklist. Taxi checklist, flaps verify 8 degrees required and indicating. So what we're doing here is we'll actually take a look at our ACARS, which has our information that looks somewhat like this. It has our zero fuel weight, the max takeoff weight, trims, our V speeds in there. What we're doing is verifying that that information is what we are seeing here. So when we call for taxi checklist and we want to say, and we say flaps verify 8 degrees required and indicating, we're verifying that the information is what we are, the information we have here is what we're seeing here. So flaps verify 8 degrees required indicating, 8 degrees required, and that's what we're indicating. Takeoff data verify, that's set, so things like our V speeds, those are, why can't I set flex takeoff? Wow. See what I mean? Aerosoft, Aerosoft. Anyway, alright, so takeoff data verified, that's set. So our V speeds, we want to verify that we've got the proper V speed. So V1 134 is set, VR 136, V2 147, VT 193, and then I wanted to flex, but it looks like we'll have a full thrust takeoff of 89.2, and that is set. Trims verify green and centered, 6.8 green and centered, 6.8. Taxi checklist complete. Alright, we're on our way. So, seeing as I'm on VATSIM, we'll go ahead and make a call really quick. Raleigh traffic, Endeavor 5084 is taxiing to 5 left via Foxtrot Bravo 1 at Raleigh. Alright, no one's here, no one cares. Brakes set, clear on the left, clear on the right. Turn our crappy lights on. I say crappy lights because these lights really are terrible. Even with, their takeoff recog lights, it's exactly as what's simulated here. It's the wing lights, and you can barely see anything with them. So some pilots do actually turn on the nose wheel the nose wheel landing light, which helps a whole lot, but still, the lights are terrible. Well, our taxi route's pretty straightforward, just straight ahead until we can't go straight anymore. We'll make a right onto Bravo 1. And as we get closer to the runway here, captain's going to ask me for the before takeoff checklist. That triggers another flow for me, so I'll go up here. We'll turn our cross flow to manual. We'll come down here, we'll check our flight controls. And then I will let the flight attendants know that they need to take their seats for departure. Not going to do that right now, but after that, we'll go through the before takeoff checklist. Takeoff config, verify, checked. That is checked. Takeoff fuel quantity balance, verify that. This is where we go back to our flight plan, and doing too many things at the same time right now. We go back to our flight plan, and we want to make sure that that minimum fuel on our takeoff here of 5.2, we've got at least that. We've got 7.6, which is more than enough, so that is checked. The brake temp, those are checked. Fuel cross flow, that is man off. Flight controls have been checked. Takeoff briefing, so this is the pilot for the pilot flying. And we just want to kind of go through a summarized version of the brief that we had earlier. So we'll say, all right, runway 5 left, that's mine, and that's inside. Here, 5 left, and that's outside. I see 5 left right there. Initial heading of 04, make that 054. Initial altitude 6,000 feet. We lose one. 1440 is the FRA. We can turn around, come back here. Any questions? No questions. And runway 5 left, that is complete. And then we've got a set of dotted lines, and that is above the line. And then we'll do the next portion once we actually get cleared to cross the runway. So once we're cleared, Endeavor 5084, clear to take off 8. Make that 5 left. Clear to take off 5 left, Endeavor 5084. So once we're cleared, captain's going to ask for below the line checklist. Ignition, any ice, that is off for today. CAS verify checked. Once that is checked, we can box those out, those messages, and then runway heading verify checked. So we want to verify that the runway heading of 054, I keep wanting to say 45, 054 is what we're actually seeing outside, and the unfortunate reason we have to do that is because of the accident in Lexington where those poor guys got on the wrong runway and killed all but the first officer, and that dude has guilt for life now. So we'll verify that once we get straightened out here. As we're taking runway, captain's going to turn all the lights on. Yeah, it looks like 5 left to me. Alright. Once the flight controls get transferred to my side, we'll hit the toga buttons, we'll get the TOTO switch, and that's pretty much it. Ready to go. I like to actually start the ET just to make sure the flight time is actually what is, well, it's close to what we say it's going to be. So anyway, once that's set, TOTO, we'll set about 70% N1, right about where that nut is in the real airplane anyway. I'm not sure where this is going to be. It takes a lot, it's a lot quicker to get there, but anyway. We'll move it up to the toga detent. TOTO, here we go. $80 knots. V1, rotate. Positive rate, gear up, speed mode, gear up, and climb. .400 feet, we can go heading mode. So heading mode's on. And 1,000 feet, we'll bring the nose back down. We'll accelerate to 200 knots. So about monitoring is going to set climb to 200. VT -10. We can set the flaps up. So flaps can come up. Bring the power back down to climb, and then I'll ask for the climb checklist. And whoever's monitoring, they've got a flow there, so they're going to turn cross flow back to auto, disarm the auto, the thrust reversers, and unbox the CAS messages here. And then they're going to read the after start checklist, or after takeoff checklist. And 3,000 feet. I can accelerate to 250 knots, which is what I'm doing now. And we'll climb up to, we'll just set 19,000. 250 knots here. Set the autopilot. I hate the way this thing snatches like the autopilot. Watches no snap, like does not do that in the real world. Anyway, we'll set 19,000 here. And at some point we'll get told, hey, clear direct to aim high, direct, aim high, confirm, execute that, and nav's available. We'll hit nav, FMS is on, and aircraft is following our LNAV. Alright, after takeoff items, gear flaps up, fuel cross flow, that is auto, bleed air panel, the APU, that is set and off. Thrust is set to the climb detent. Thrust reversers have been set to off, and CAS is checked. After takeoff checklist is complete. And there's 10,000 feet. 10,000 feet. Lights can come off. And we'll accelerate to 290 knots. So I was mentioning earlier how the airplane is a little bit, when it comes to performance, and there's certain things about the aircraft that are not realistic. This right here, you're not going to see a climb rate of 3.5 at 15,000 feet holding 290 knots. Like, I've yet to see that, especially for 60 people on board. I mean, it's closer to, at best, 25 maybe, but you're more than likely, it's going to be like closer to 2,000 feet per minute at this point. Like, these airplanes, I mean, granted, it's my first jet, and I love it, but man, they are pigs when it comes to climbing, especially if you're heavy. So here we are, coming up to 18,000 feet. We'll go ahead and set STDs on both sides. And I'll slowly bring the power back. Another thing too, it's easy to climb using the speed mode, but in the real world, the aircraft really searches for the for that speed. So it's gonna nose up and down. Like, it's not. Frankly, it doesn't seem like all that much up front, but it's pretty uncomfortable in the back. So what's funny is during the sims they told us, use the speed mode, and then in the real world we're all using the vertical speed, just because it's essentially the same thing. You're just controlling the rate at which you climb. You just have to keep an eye on it. So the thing about the airplane, it's not like an Airbus or a Boeing where you've got all the throttles, or even the ERJ, the 175s and the 190s, where they have auto throttle. Like, you definitely have to pay attention to it, and just. But beyond that, it's pretty automated. It's this. Most of our airplanes, I'm speaking for my airline only, but most of our airplanes actually have VNAV. All of the 900s do, and the majority of the 700s do as well too. There's some very old ones that don't, but even then, it's really not that much of a much more of a handful or anything like you have to pay attention to. It's just you're paying attention to the aircraft on those airplanes that have VNAV as much as you are the ones that don't. So you just have to. You're flying an airplane. It's just a big Cessna, essentially, in my opinion. So, while we have a little bit of time here, we'll go ahead and we'll start setting up for the approach into DC. Now, you're not going to find this, unfortunately, on any of the Navigraph pages here. But on the CAPS 3, most of your descent rates, on ILSs and stars, are set for you to descend at a 3-degree descent rate, or like glide path. But there's certain places where, kind of like here in BC, in CAPS 3, if you're landing to the north, according to my company pages, are I'm sorry, if you're landing to the south today, the vertical path angle, the VPA down here, is actually set to 2.0. So if you were to descend at a 3-degree rate on the CAPS 3 here, all of these gates, we are more than likely actually going to be below them. So we can pass waves at 280 knots between 21 and 22, but by the time we get to, if we get to cassette or ELAP, if we maintain that rate, we're going to always find ourselves being pretty close to being below it, if not below it, because we're descending too fast. So the VPA going into DC is actually set to 2. So that will actually shallow out our descent rate, which should move this TOD a little bit, but again, it's a simulator doing a simulator thing. So, and then the other thing we're gonna want to set up here is our the approach. So if we were to look at the approach here, which we have actually already added up, I'll go through the fixes here, and this is kind of how we do the breeze as well too. We've got the caps 3. We'll go through the fixes. So we've got waves between 280 knots and 21 and 22. That looks good. Cassette above 17. ELAP above 280 between 14 and 20. That's in there. Bully between 13 and 16. That's in there. Caps between 10 and 13. Then go on to flips. Hoyas as if we're going to the north side, but flips at 280 knots below 11,000. That checks out. Mojo 250 knots at 10,000 feet. That looks good. Then Giles, Smoot above 7, Bam above 6, and then Pack, and then we can expect radar vectors from there. So let's pull out the approach for the River Visual 19er. Now the way we do this in the real world is we would set up Fergie, because usually that's where ATC is going to have you fly to before you start following the river, and then we're going to set C-Talk. All these other fixes here, the Grays and Derek, we're actually not going to put those in there. We would put in Fergie, and C-Talk, and then runway. It's not going to work here, but we would input runway 19, and that would give us a what did I just do here? Fergie, I'm going to cancel this for now actually. That would give us a distance on runway 19 here, where we can set essentially we can extend the runway threshold, but we can't do that here because Aerosoft. So what I can do, however, is just set in Fergie and C-Talk. Then we were to cross Fergie at above 3,000, and then C-Talk at or above 1,500. Realistically, you want to cross these right at their assigned altitudes, because that'll keep you on the flight path. And C-Talk, and then runway 19. Yeah, it's not gonna work. I've already tried it before. So we'll just go ahead and put runway 19 in here. So what this does is it actually sets up our snowflake to, see, it shouldn't say 19,000. That is not right. Yeah, that's not going to work. So it is what it is. So if we go over to the format and take a look at what we've got in here, Billy, Caps, Mojo, Giles, Smooth, Bam, Pack. Then we've got the Vectors, and then Fergie, C-Talk, and Runner 19. So now, like I said, it's going to be a little bit off, but we are still going to have the same snowflake that we get during the, if we're to arm the VNav right now. Okay, I don't know why are you climbing? And I just got violated. Yeah, so that shouldn't have happened. So we'll make our way back down to 19,000 before we get yelled at. Anyway, we're going to get a snowflake that we can follow for vertical guidance during the approach. And then last but not least, you're not going to see this anywhere either, but as you can see on the chart, we've got prohibited area PB or P56 Bravo, which is usually not a problem. It's P56 Alpha over here that is usually the issue, because that comes right down towards the runway here, right past the bridge, or right up to the shoreline when we're right across the bridge here. So what we can do is actually put in this fix and put a 1 mile ring around it, and that, so long as we stay out of that ring, it's going to keep us out of P56. And then the approach assault, there's not much to it really. Fergie, we crossed at 3,000 feet. And then Sea-Talk, we crossed at 1,500 feet. There's a turn right about here where the key bridge is, where the hotels are. We want to, if we can, I'm going to try and shade on the outside, on the north side of the river, and then begin that turn inbound, just because we've been getting, well, you're likely to get a JIPWIZ warning if you basically try to just cut across there, and the JIPWIZ sees the buildings in front and is like, hey, you keep descending, then you're gonna hit those buildings. So in order just to avoid that, we're just gonna shade on the outside of the river here and then turn inside. And then the final turn, since we are turning, we actually have to maintain for since we're doing a maneuver, we want to maintain about 10 knots faster than what we actually our reference speed is. And that last turn, I'm not sure if it's going to show me. It's not really going to work. And that last turn, we're basically going to want to follow this little curve right here, right around the bridge. It's a great visual to use in order to make that turn. But for the missed approach altitude, and there's our snowflake. For the missed approach altitude, let's just slow down to 280 knots here. Since it's a visual approach, what my company does is we'll just use the airport elevation, round up to the nearest 10. So since it's 14 feet in DC, round up to 20, and then we'll add another 400 feet. So 420 is what we'll use as a go around altitude. And last but not least, so waves, we're crossing waves right now at, we got 5.9 gallons, and according to our flight plan here, we're expecting to cross waves at 5.4. we actually crossing at 5.9, so we actually have a lot more gas than we need. we've got 600 more, I'm sorry, 500 more gallons than we are actually supposed to land with. So we're supposed to land at 4.5. That's actually going to be closer to 500 pounds or 5,000 pounds. So what I'm going to do here is set our fuel to 5,000. That's going to give me a more accurate gross weight when we land. So I can now set up our V speeds properly. So let me get our fuel back to what it should be. We'll just say 580. And let's say we get told to descend via the CAPS 3, landing south. So we'll set the first hard altitude, which is going to be on CAPS 3. It's going to be Mojo at 10,000 feet. So we'll set 10,000 feet. Whoa, whoa, where are you going? 10,000 feet here. And I'll accelerate because we're way too slow here. 10,000 feet. And then Mojo 1,000 feet per minute. So we can still stay up here for now. We'll start our descent a little bit later. So 68,000 pounds. So supposedly, our VREF should be 137. This is what I don't trust about those speeds here, because if I were to look at what we're supposed to be at with 68,000 pounds, shows me a VREF, okay, 134, I take that back. I apologize. And then okay, so I thought this thing was not accurate. It's close enough. The VT is still a little bit off. The VT is 195 here, where it's supposed to be 189, but that'll work. I'll set the VT myself here, so set all. We'll change the VT. Where you at? VT to 189, and set a VREF of. I thought it's set. I'm not sure why it's not set. Alright, I'll do it myself. VREF, we'll use 134. VREF 134, VT of 142, and sure why the VT change. VT 189, V2 go around 142, V1 does not matter, so we'll X this out, and I'll start our descent here. Showing Mojo descent rate 1,500 feet per minute. I like it. See, V1 is out, VR 134, V2 142, VT 189, good deal. And just for reference, we'll put 134 over the runway right here and execute that. Alright, pull up the weather information real quick out of DC. They're saying information uniform, winds are 180 at 9, 10 miles and clear, 13, altimeter is 3031. Once, twice, three times. Alright, send through 18,000 feet. We can go through our descent checklist. Descent checklist. Pressurization that is set. Landing elevation 20 feet. Altimeter is verified 3031 set. 3031 set. Landing data has been set for 68,000 pounds. Arrival briefing if the pilot monitoring has no questions, and that's complete. And CAS verified, checked. Descent checklist down to the line. Alright, so I'm going to increase our descent rate here just a smidge. Oh, you know what? I just violated because we didn't pass bully between 16 and 13. Oops. Yeah. That's not good. Alright, so we'll descend. Yep, I'm supposed to be 13 at caps. Yep, I'm definitely high. I didn't trust the snowflake. I should have trusted a snowflake here. I forgot our descent rate was a whole lot steeper, or a whole lot shallow. I just wanted to come in really shallow. Yeah, we're definitely high. And we would have gotten in trouble for this. We'll back it up to 250. Actually, supposed to speed up to 280 knots. So what we're gonna do here is, yep. Well, now we're catching up. So I do have to accelerate. .280 knots at flips. Alright, so we made that below. Oh, no, we didn't. We're supposed to be below 11. Man, I'm so bad. Alright, we'll slow down 250 knots. One to go. Slow our descent rate to 1,500 feet per minute. The alts cap 10,000, so we're definitely at 10,000. We can go ahead and set. Actually, there's alts. Now we can set our next altitude, which is going to be 6,000 at BAM. Alright, there's Mojo at 10. We can set our vertical speed down to 1300 feet per minute, or a little blue dot there. And passing through 10,000 feet, we'll go through our descent checklist. Items below the line, which is seatbelt signs are on and stereo on. So there'll be a stereo light here. There isn't one here. We'll just ding the smoking sign on and off twice to let the flight attendants know that we are through 10,000 feet. Turn our lights on. Descent checklist complete. And there's DCA. One, two, go. Alright, there's 6,000 ounce cap. Let's ascend down to 4,000 feet. Alright, we'll continue our descent down to 3,000 feet now. I'm actually going to maintain present heading. And we'll slow to 210 knots. To go. Alright, we'll turn right now to 04 and make it 050. And we'll continue our turn 090. Bring the flaps down to 8. Alright, and let's say they clear us direct to Fergie. So we'll see if this will work here. Fergie, not allowed, of course. How about this? Alright, we'll go direct Fergie. We'll nav that for now. And we're down at 3,000. Let's say we're cleared for the approach. And 144. And once we're cleared for the approach, we'll go ahead and set. Let's do runway heading of 187. Oh, yeah. Speed's good. Let's go flaps to 20. It's a little bit on the fast side. We'll maintain 170 until C-Talk. Alright, once we're cleared for the approach, like I said, the biggest thing is just making sure that you maintain a steady rate. I'm not entirely sure if that snowflake's going to work. If it does, fantastic. If not, then we'll just maintain about 700 feet per minute. And that's about it. It's not much else to really do in this approach. Alright, once we're cleared for the approach, we'll ding the flight attendants one more time. Just let them know. Cleared for the approach, and we'll arm our thrust reversers. And from this point on, it's basically you just follow the river. And like I said, down over there where the hotels are, we'll try to shade towards the north side, and then we'll make that right turn here. But biggest thing right now is I got to maintain 700 feet ish per minute on the descent rate, and we'll maintain 170 knots for now until C-Talk, because that tends to happen to you're trying to separate traffic. So I'm actually going to clear the flight director here just because it's giving me some crappy information. Alright, we'll bring the gear down. Let's see here, 170 knots. We'll hold off on flaps 30 for now. Alright, here's C-Talk at 15, slow down to our final approach speed here. We'll do 144 because we're doing we're turning, so we'll give ourselves a 10 knot buffet there, and we'll bring the flaps to 45 before landing checklist. Before landing checklist, thrust reversers are armed. Landing gear verified down 3 green, down 3 green. Flaps verified 45 and indicating, 45 and indicating, and flat spoilers are stowed for landing checklist complete. So here's the hotel. Shade towards the north side here. And we'll keep our descent rate coming down. And then we're going to try our best here to just kind of shade right next to the shoreline here. We've got 2 reds, 2 whites. Looks good. I'm a little bit on the slow side. Front approach speed is 134 knots, but like I said, it'll do 144 as we're making that last turn there. So it should be out of P56 there, so it looks good. Still looking good. So here's the curve around the bridge, and we basically just want to kind of trace that. Speed up a little bit here. Landing. It's 144. Slow down to our final approach speed of 134 as soon as we're out of the turn. A little bit on the high side. And now we'll bring the speed back down to 134, our reference. Down powered out of idle. I promise you, this airplane does not float like this. Alright, ground spoilers and to reverse. There's 90 knots. We'll start backing off the reverse thrust here. And 60 knots. We'll turn right onto runway 15, is it? Runway 4. And we can hand this other right here on to Juliet. And that's it. And once we've landed, I'll start the timer again. We got a 2-minute cooldown of our engines, and we'll bring the flaps up. Yeah, we'll go ahead and start. We'll turn the lights off here and start the APU. We'll take kilo. What is this? And we'll go to break gate Bravo 22. Now, my airline doesn't have an after landing checklist. We just have a flow that we do, and essentially, so long as I clean the flaps up, make sure the radars are turned off, and start our timer for the cooldown. That's pretty much it. So here's gate 32. Oh, I think I missed our gate there. Whoops. Hey, well, it happens, so let's just say we had traffic behind us. We had to go around, so let's turn back around. I'm not sure who goes to the C gates, like Frontier or somebody, I have no idea, JetBlue. But whip it back around. It happens. Let's see, there is taxiway Mike. Oh, well, this should be our gate. I'm very confused. We're just gonna go right here. Alright, we'll turn the lights off. APU's up. Oh, that is 22. That'll work. Alright, parking brakes on. Turn the fuel pumps off, probes off, and transponder off. The captain's going to wait to make sure we've got electrical power, and then they're going to not do that. Cut the thrust off. Hydraulic pump 3 off. Seatbelts off. Beacon off. Nozzle steering off. And it should be it. Shutdown checklist. Shutdown checklist. Park and brake. Verify that is on. Slots flap levers up. Radars are off. Electrics are set. Fuel pumps are off. NEIS is off. Transponders stand by. Thrust levers are shut off. Passenger signs are off. Hydraulic pump 3A is off. Lights are off. Nozzle steering switch is off. Shutdown checklist complete. Guys, that is how we do that. Like I said, there's really not a whole lot to the approach. It's just making sure you're at key places at key altitudes, and that's pretty much it. And then when it comes to flying these aircraft as well too, it's like I said, it's just like a big Cessna kind of. I mean, you don't have any autothrottles. You just have to watch, make sure that you're on the speed. You just have to pay attention to it. That's all. Also, it requires just some attention. But yeah, that's a typical flight in the RJ. In the future, I intend on doing a bunch of regional airlines. Like there are some other routes that I like to try out in the RJ. And then there are certain maneuvers as well that we do too, just to maintain our proficiency. So I think I'll end up doing something like that, where we'll do like V1 cuts, and I'll kind of go through our process of doing engine failures and things of that nature. But like I said, I hope you guys like the content. I plan on doing a lot more of these. So thanks for tuning in.